Kenner Star Wars figure. What is up, Star Wars fans? Welcome back to another episode of Mirandalorian Outpost. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Mirandalorian, and today we have a really cool video for all you Star Wars collectors. As many of you already know, I love Star Wars. I do Star Wars props. I'm a huge collector. I just live and breathe Star Wars. My collection ranges from everything to cups, apparel, toys, props, posters. The list goes on and on, but I've always had a huge appreciation for Star Wars toys. Growing up, Star Wars was always one of those franchises that I was obsessed with and had all the toys to play with growing up. And as I got older, I became obsessed, as many Star Wars fans do, into collecting all types of Star Wars toys, and most importantly, the Star Wars Kenner toys. Kenner is the company that started the Star Wars toy line back in 1977, and most Star Wars fans had those toys growing up, unfortunately lost them, broke them, repainted them, did whatever they did with them growing up, as most kids do. However, most Star Wars fans try and find those pristine versions of those toys that they had when they were little. And for kids who are now adults in my generation, who have an appreciation for the Kenner toys, can now recollect those toys from Hasbro in the Retro Collection toy line. I personally have bought every single Retro Collection toy that they have released since the start of the Retro Collection line. Here is the R2-D2. It is the exact replica of the Kenner toy, just in pristine condition. And Gentle Giant is a company that makes 12-inch versions of those Kenner toys, exactly like the small 3 3/4 scale, but in the 12-inch scale. And I have plenty of those behind me as well, and tons in the other room in a different box, not on display, sadly. But today we are talking about micro figures. Over the years, Star Wars has created many different toy lines of Star Wars action figures in a much smaller scale. In the past, they had Action Fleet as well as Micro Machines. The most recent of these toy lines would be the Star Wars Micro Galaxy Squadron series, where they sell these miniature toys with the miniature ships. And playing around the scale with these things has always been really fascinating to me. The creator JP Customs on Instagram sent me these figures to review, and they are amazing. He creates the Kenner Star Wars figures, but in a small scale on the card. Look at how crazy and adorable this is. They're tiny versions of the Kenner figures. They are so cool. In the blister, on the card, and it even has all the detail on the back of the card. Now, when Kenner originally released these figures, to hold the figure in place, they just bent a little piece of cardboard like this in between their legs. And the fact that he recreated that on just a smaller scale is just a whole new level of detail. He also sent me Admiral Ackbar, Princess Leia, Nine Nub, IG-88, Luke, a Stormtrooper, Bossk, Forlum, and a loose Boba Fett as well, because there's no way I'm ever opening this. Now, of course, I want to respect the way that he makes these, as there's many people who make props and customs, and unfortunately, part of the side of doing this kind of stuff, there's always going to be people who are going to rip off your work or try and do it the same way. So he wouldn't go into detail into the exact way that he makes these. I would guess that they're resin printed, but they're all hand painted, which is insane. I don't know the process of the cleanup or the files or where the files came from originally, but there is so much detail on these figures that at this scale is just really crazy. Especially when you compare it to miniature figures that come out today, the lack of detail on those is kind of disappointing when a person can make a custom of a recreation of an original toy have so much more detail than what's being made today. These figures don't have any articulation, which I'm not surprised. At this scale, it's really hard to do that well and also still paint it and not have anything break. But one of the craziest things is the lightsaber on Luke Skywalker. The Kenner toys had a lightsaber that you could push through their arm to extend it as if they were igniting the lightsaber. And this little Luke can do that too. This tiny little arm slides up and down. I don't even know if that's picking up on the camera. But the fact that they could do that without having this break is insane, especially for resin printing, if that's how they do it, because a lot of resin prints aren't this strong and over time would warp or bend. So something this tiny to hold this shape, it's nuts. And here's a close shot of that lightsaber. Here we have Luke and Leia. And what's really cool is that she actually has the vinyl cape. A look at the Stormtrooper, and it's crazy how much detail is on these figures. You can't really see it unless you're really in person, but there is so much detail on all of them. Here we have Bossk, another great figure. We have the blue Snaggletooth on the card, and look at the back of the card. That's just amazing, and such a cool, fun detail of these figures. Personal favorite, Boba Fett, of course. We have IG and Nine Nub. They look great as well. And last but not least, we have It's a Trap, Admiral Akbar. And look at these blasters. That they come with the blasters separately is so crazy. There's so much detail on these blasters at this scale is nuts. Just a quick shot of the scaling of these figures with the original, the micro, and the jumbo. I also wanted to compare the Micro Galaxy Squadron figures with these JP Customs. They are actually a lot smaller, but there's not a lot of detail on them, and the paint is just so much better on the JP Custom figure, and I just have to give it to them. They just did it better. I mean, look at this. How cool is that? We have the Retro Collection Forlum right here, the 12-inch Jumbo from Gentle Giant, and now this miniature from JP Customs. What a crazy scaling of this figure. Of course, fan favorite Boba Fett. So amazing. I'm putting these guys directly behind me once I'm done with this video. And the carded one. One really cool thing also, if you're into toy photography, the first thing that popped in my mind is that this seems like the perfect size and scale for a 12-inch Hot Toys figure or other 12-inch scaled figures to hold this in their hand, and now this is in scale with those toys if you want to do some really cool and funny shots. Thank you so much, JP Customs, for sending me these figures to review. They are absolutely incredible and one of the coolest things in my collection. Star Wars fans and collectors, do not sleep on these figures. Go check them out. They're tagged in this video. I also saw that he just dropped the original 12 Star Wars figures on the card in one box, so you can just buy them all at one time. He even does the holiday special Boba Fett, which I'm going to have to buy because that is such an awesome version of Boba Fett, and to have it in the Kenner style on a miniature card, something that was never made, I need to get that. Again, thank you so much. These are incredible. I love them. Hopefully you liked the video. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment, and I'll catch you in the next episode.